Ja, genau.
Niemand gesehen.
Ob die dann noch anders
Ich habe alles, was ich brauche. Doch wo ich ihn noch hasse und ich
Oh, is that what he's doing? Clearing the energy?
Also, that's 50 points where I'd get to a certain point of learning and then I'd feel stuck, get straight in. Part of the way to
Dresden, Bilderberg Conference. Here is the Grand Hotel Taschenberg Palace. And standing next to me is Tony Gosling. His website is bilderberg.org or .com? Or .org?
Not .com.
.org.
These guys are the .com.
That's the .com, you're the .org. You're the .org. Here's the Bilderberg.org. And Tony, can you share us what your insights and your views, what happened here today and yesterday?
Well, two things I'd say. I think the German police have been disgusting, absolutely appalling. Not just in the fact that they've been IDing everybody for no apparent reason, they've done nothing wrong, but they have been brutalising some of the activists and some of the journalists who've been trying to cover this. There's been no excuse for the police action at all,
no.
And they did, for example, with the two British people, they said you're not allowed to have bread here, and they took them away into a park about maybe 500 metres, 600 metres away, into the park where no one could see them, nobody from here could protect them, and then they were brutalised in the park. The guy was really actually badly hurt. And
I heard it for the first time that someone is hurt.
Yes,
really.
quite
Wow.
badly hurt. We then managed to find them later in the day, and treated them to a nice supper, give them some tender, loving care.
Do you know a little bit more about them? Who they are?
They're from Britain, yes. There's a guy called Alan and Maria.
Alan and Maria.
And
okay.
they have just simply come over here with some banners to stand to help raise awareness. Maybe if there's some TV cameras, they can count the banner so people can see that they are protesting against this. But the police were really disgusting. Threw the guy, physically threw him into the police
Was
van.
it on the first day?
This is the first day of the conference, yeah.
So they want to make
an
showcase,
example. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of that.
You know,
now, that's, I think, absolutely unacceptable. And I think a lot of the Germans here have been shocked at the way the police have behaved. I've not seen that kind of behaviour.
a lot of angry Germans here.
Yeah.
How the police, act here in this country. Yeah. I also know someone who has a constitution of the German constitution, and he translated me the constitution of the Germany into English to me on camera, so that he knows what is happening here is not right.
Well, look, these people don't give two hoots about the law. They have spent most of the last 60 years breaking the law. In fact, we've got two major contingents of criminals inside these meetings. We've got the financial criminals. HSBC is probably the most criminal bank on the planet. They have been money laundering in the United States, I think it's $2 billion fine for money laundering with the Mexican drug cartels, fraud, false accounting. These companies are totally criminal, and that HSBC is just the worst example. What we've got now is banks, many of which, the private banks, big private banks, are simply not viable. If you have a look at the books,
Give me a second.
Yeah.
Can you both do it? We're speaking, so I can, because my microphone is here.
Yeah, the banks are simply not viable in any kind. If the law was enforced, they would be closed down because their assets are not enough to keep the company going.
Yes.
And yet these private banks, zombie banks, since 2008, are trying to dictate to the finance ministers in here and to these people like the Bundesbank, the Bank of England, the public banks, the national banks are being bullied by the private banks, the criminal private banks. The other bunch of criminals are the war criminals.
Yes.
So you've got particularly Henry Kissinger. Now, it's a very long list of crimes. This guy.
Yeah.
He seems to be above the law.
He's not allowed to go to certain countries because he will be taken to jail.
Good. Well, I'm sure he has a very good list of which countries he can go to and which ones he can't go to.
Exactly.
So the bombing of Cambodia was just one of the first. We had the coup in Indonesia. Kissinger helped organise. You also had the Turkish invasion of Cyprus. There was really, and the coup in Chile. Something like 20,000 Chileans disappeared during the rule of General Pinochet. So the guy is quite obviously a fascist. He was working with Nixon, made a lot of progress, if you can call it that. But he was one of the people very much behind the Vietnam War, which, looking at it in history terms, was more to do with cultivating opium and projecting American power than it was to do with anything like communism.
Yes.
It was very much on the side. So we've got criminals inside. But I say the police, really, they're facing the wrong way. They're they're bullying young people, maybe easy targets. With the difficult ones, they're leaving them free. And
yes.
So you've got effectively a criminal syndicate which is growing and growing.
Yes, there's something I want you to tell me. How many people who went first to go to Bilderberg became powerful later on, like Clinton, for instance, like Tony Blair? First they are nobody, almost like a nobody, and then all of a sudden they have the power.
That's a really good question, because that's one of the main roles of Bilderberg, I think. There's not big decisions made in these meetings, in my opinion. What happens is you've got the elite, that is the bankers, the royalty, some of the top people from the media. You've got a lot of the tech companies, Google, people like this. And the people who are brought in to that situation, well, also you've got the private banks as well. People who are brought into that situation are up-and-coming politicians. So politicians who are coming up through the ranks, look like they may be close to power, either in an opposition party or one of the parties that's in power now. So the Bilderberg really is vetting them. They're listening to everything they say. If they say something which is against the policy of the Pentagon, then they write their name down, and that person will be removed from power. I explained some of this to the police on the first night I was here, that they were IDing me, and the guy said, well, that means then if you're voting, it's not going to change anything. And I think he's right, because these people are buying political parties, they're buying newspapers, they're buying everything which is trying to defend ordinary people against the elite.
No, I know that, for instance, Clinton was in 1993, he was in Baden-Baden, and he was a governor. And then later he became president. And Tony Blair, he was not president yet, and he went to the Bilderberg, and later on he became president, became powerful. Can you give me some more names? Like a French prime minister was a Bilderberger before he became prime minister of France. Is that correct?
No, I can't give you lots of names, I'm afraid. But it's quite clear if you look at the people who are in power around Europe, particularly, they're almost always have come to Bilderberg beforehand. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think Cameron did. I don't think Osborne did. But you know, that is exactly what this sort of thing is for. So,
well, can you also compare this conference with previous conference that you will be attending as well? How many Bilderberg have you been?
This is my fourth.
Your fourth.
My first was in 2000 in Belgium. Then I went to one in 2003 in Versailles, in Paris, where I had the opportunity to have a conversation with David Rockefeller.
Wow.
He came out from the Versailles Palace
you recorded
for
that?
a walk around, but it wasn't such a good conversation. He wouldn't say anything. He wanted to talk about the nice restaurants. But you see, I think Rockefeller has moved aside now, and we've got Eric Schmidt possibly taking his place as a regular person. Schmidt is now on the steering committee as of Christmas, and one of the lies that Bilderberg tells to the international press to put them off is that the Bilderberg conference every year is their only meeting. Clearly that's not true. We've had reports from 18 months ago, someone discovered a Bilderberg steering committee meeting in Italy. in round about September time, about 2 years ago. Also last Christmas, there was another meeting. We know that because they then changed the names of the people on the steering committee. For example, Eric Schmidt, that was when he first arrived last Christmas. And also another new member on the steering committee. This is always good to watch because these are the people who are directing this organisation,
exactly,
deciding who is going to be the new people to invite. The other person is John Soares. He is the former Director General of MI6, the British Foreign Intelligence Service.
That's what tells
he was
also.
sacked. So this is a place like the European Commission where sacked people, civil servants and politicians collect to discuss how they want to control things if they were still in power. And of course they have many contacts and much knowledge from
how things work.
The government.
Yeah,
So they're really like a parallel government, an alternative government. If you want a shadow government, is meeting in these buildings.
The lady of the, I don't remember her name, but the lady of the IMF, she
Christine Lagarde.
Yeah, and she mentioned, yeah, we have a website. It's there to find what we discuss. Like they now all of a sudden they can explain themselves that we are not that secretive anymore. You know, this is ludicrous. It's ridiculous.
I'll just explain to you one of the lies they tell in almost the first line on the website is a lie.
Yeah.
Also, I think that the big topic for Bilderberg right now is the possibility of Brexit in 10 days' time.
Yeah.
It looks like the UK may exit from the European Union.
Which I hope
that
they
is
do.
not on there specific on the agenda. Yeah?
But I
think many people inside will be discussing this. Of course they will. I actually confronted Jacob Wallenberg from Sweden. He, by the way, is from a family, the Wallenberg family, that played both sides in World War II, like the Royal Dutch Shell, of course, did play both sides.
Story, yeah.
So Wallenberg had his father and his uncle, one on each side in World War II. So they knew whichever side won, they would win as a family, and they made a lot of money out of the Second World War, the Wallenbergs. Anyway, so Jacob, I spoke to him yesterday about Brexit. You know what? He just turned around, walked away, like a spoilt child,
which means it is like a psychological warfare. You defeated him.
Well, it's a simple question.
Yeah.
Is Brexit going to be good or bad? Come on, Jacob, just answer the question. And he didn't want to know.
He's afraid to show it.
Afraid to say yes or no.
Yeah.
That's how bad these people are.
Yes.
So really what you're saying is that there is a wall of silence around them. If these people were honest, they would at least say yes or at least say no.
Yeah,
You're not asking for a lot.
One of the topics is also cybersecurity, and my estimate is that they want to make it a privilege to be on the internet, so that you have kind of a ID system that you can only be on internet if you prove yourself that you are who you claim you are.
I don't think so. I don't think there is definitely a digital ID.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
If you look online, there is a lot of evidence that privately owned, private companies are going to be controlling digital IDs. And if you want to access, for example, bank websites, government websites, you will have to have this digital ID. So this is a massive money spinner, an incredible new market for a private company to do this.
You have to have a license to be on the internet. That is common.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. No, I think they want more people onto the internet. They don't care if they don't necessarily have your ID. They can work it out sometimes from your location, from your search terms, from the friends you're communicating with online, your Facebook page, this kind of thing. They want everyone on the internet. You remember Bill Cooper, you met him.
Yeah, I met him.
One of the things he said is that they want a propagandized world where everyone is chained to a computer, but they believe, because of the propaganda, that they're happy in that system. Actually, that's not true at all, and they want everybody on the internet because it's like a web. You can get stuck on the internet, and Henry Kissinger, the great spider, will come and eat you.
Wonderful said, wonderful said. Is there something that if you would talk if you could give a lecture to them, what would you speak about?
I would no hesitation. I would speak about monetary reform, because I think the main power in here is money. They are power addicts, power junkies, and the main tool they use to gather power is money. And so I think we need to have reform of the money system.
Because it's a Ponzi scheme.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Reforms of the money system. Yeah. So that, I mean, there are actually plenty of economists. I think one of the best is Steve Keen. He's a British economist. He's the author of Debunking Economics. Really good book. And he explains we need a Copernican revolution in economics, he says, because at the moment all the economists in Bilderberg and in the universities around the world, they think that the sun goes around the earth. They need to learn that the earth goes around the sun.
Exactly. Yeah?
And there needs to be big changes. So someone like him, I would be really getting them to know some of the things that he does. But I would say, effectively, we need to have a system, money system, that works for the people, not the bankers.
Okay.
Because that's the main problem we've got at the moment. It needs to serve the interests of the people that use it.
And how much of the debt that we have, that we owe to the government or to the banksters, how much of it is based on fake money? I mean fiat money, about money created out of nothing.
Well, that's one question, but the even bigger question is how much of this money is quantitative easing? Since 2008, I've got news for you. 2008, capitalism died. There's no more capitalism after 2008. You have a money printing system, which is just inflating asset bubble and a stock market bubble, and this is ready to go bang anytime. Now, the Bilderbergs can trigger this if they want to, of course. And if they are involved through their military friends like Petraeus in creating the situation which leads to the bubble bursting, because a military intervention somewhere can do that, they can bet on currencies crashing and they can make money out of it.
And after that, you will have a cashless society. That's one of the goals, I guess.
Quite possibly. I mean, in Scandinavia, that's already starting.
In Sweden, I guess.
And another thing to say about that is getting rid of cash, is that is going back to the ancient Egyptian system of money. The ancient Egyptians used to use credit. Yeah, you never had anything valuable in a coin, not even a piece of copper. You never had that in Egypt. You just had a ledger and an amount written in it. So if you wanted to spend money, you have to go, we know how much they have this, and they change it. Yeah. So actually the system we have at the moment with the chip and pin and the credit cards and the RFID cards is exactly the same kind of system as they had in ancient Egypt. And this is where they're going back to. We need to go forward with a money system that works for us and also is open and accountable, not private.
And what is your take on Trump? What is happening there in America? What do you think how they view Trump?
Okay, Trump is an interesting one, definitely, because I mean, it's fairly clear. It's another very good article by William Engdahl, that Trump has spent his whole life in the mafia, right? So the guy is a mafia don.
Okay.
Yeah, Donald Don Trump, Trump card Don, I call him, maybe. Yeah, because the guy is, I think, working for the same kinds of elite. But I think they realise that if they have a mainstream candidate from the Republican Party, is it Ted Cruz, people like this, that they're not going to get the votes. They need to have somebody that looks like an alternative. The real problem is, and talking to people in the UK about this, they're really worried. What would happen if you had something like a Cuban Missile Crisis now, with either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump? You haven't got the intelligence, the wisdom of somebody like John F. Kennedy around to deal with that sort of crisis. So really we have no choice at all in America. Thanks to these guys, we have a choice between two maniacs to run the most powerful military and nuclear force in the world, which is very worrying.
The only sensible person that I can imagine to be president of the United States is Ron Paul. Not his son, but the father, the senior.
But he's not really standing. Maybe Bernie Sanders will be better, but Trump and Hillary Clinton, this is opposites, yeah? Okay. They're exactly the same kind of crazy people will be having access. Of course, Trump has been meeting with Kissinger, because Kissinger wants to make sure he's on side. Because these guys will always, I was hearing yesterday from one of the Germans here, that when he was speaking to his professor, I think it was, and he said, talked about Bilderberg, he laughed in his face, he said, you think that voting is what makes someone president in America? And he laughed in his face, because I think for a long time, since certainly the death of John F. Kennedy in 1963, these guys, basically the financiers and NATO, have been choosing the president, the military-industrial complex. And this is the military-industrial complex appreciation society. They get together to try and make a success for them, for money from war.
How do you see that I wish that more activists will discuss is the suppression of inventions like free energy technology or hemp oil that can cure cancer?
Well, okay, you've got an interesting angle there, because look, the Rockefeller family started as an oil monopoly, Standard Oil, which was broken up under the Antitrust Act. I think it was about 1950, 19 or something. What we've got in there is the newest monopoly, that is the internet. You've got Google as a virtual monopoly on much of what goes on the internet. And up until recently, there was a conflict between Apple and Google and Microsoft. Now they're all friends. As of a few months ago, they seem to have, I mean, they had lawsuits against each other. They dropped all the lawsuits and they're all friends together.
And who are they serving?
So
I guess the masters.
Their monopoly, yes. I mean, we're moving towards a kind of 1984 type situation, a Big Brother situation, where these guys are trying to take control of everything we see and hear and think. They get us all onto the internet and then they start to control the internet. If you search for something on Google now, at the bottom of the search you'll find some have been omitted because of illegal action. Yeah? Mm-hmm. That means that the people who are the real rich and powerful criminals can get the results removed from Google.
Yes.
So that means, say it comes to an election, people are trying to find out about one candidate or another, and this has been proved in the United States. Google can raise a candidate's profile 13%, or it can drop a candidate's profile 25% in an election. So Google is starting to get a monopoly on the way we think. That's really dangerous.
Artificial intelligence and transhumanism is also one of the topics, I think, was it last year or the year before that? What's your view on transhumanism and artificial intelligence?
Well,
should we be afraid of it or not?
Of course we should. Yeah. I mean, we're going back to Bill Cooper again here, actually, because he was talking about this idea of people having to get everything from the computers and being almost maybe connected up constantly to computers.
Yes.
Having maybe a microchip implant. They've even now started to talk about this, you know, openly in the United States. It's been really good. Give your child a microchip implant. They were saying this about 2 months ago.
I saw that.
On TV in Florida.
I saw that.
This is going to be good for your child because you can find your child if you lose your child. And you know what? With the reporting, there was no criticism, no explanation of the fact that you can catch cancer. Your children can get cancer from these things.
Yes.
So
it is more worrying about how the media is selling it. It's dangerous. Yeah.
And every piece of media that criticizes the globalists,
agenda,
they close it down and buy it up.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a good contrast with the Second World War, for example, with the German Panzer tanks.
Okay.
There's a guy called Finian Cunningham. He's an Irish writer, wrote a really good article last year about the Greek conflict with the Troika, with the central banks in Europe. And he said the Panzer banks destroy Greece. And that's what they're being used for, financial warfare. The banks are now, you can smash a city, bomb a city like Dresden was bombed to take it over. But it's much easier to do it with money.
Yes.
Buy it up, take it over, hostile takeover. But it's the same effect. You own that business.
Okay, the last topic, that is infighting in activism, that you have different kinds of truthers. I have to explain the word truther, that those who demand truth from the rulers, not necessarily that you claim to have all the truth, but that you demanding the truth from them because they claim to be the rulers over us. So now have you different type of truthers and activists. You have the people who are, like you, Christian truthers, who say only through Jesus you will find truth. Then you have the scientists.
I don't necessarily say that. I've never said that, only through Jesus.
That could be. Could be, but I'm not saying you are saying. Okay, then you have the atheists who say only through science you'll find truth. And then you have the New Agers who say it has to feel good, you see. And you have all these different types, and they all have their own agendas, and they want to have the tyranny gone, but they come with a new tyranny, is that only my way is the best way. So what I have thought about is there should be a new slogan like this, a new kind of unity against tyranny. That means that we can help each other. We still are individuals, we still have our own unique ways, but we can help each other when we are in trouble. Like, let someone take my channel down. I had 27,000 subscribers in 2007 and I lost it. And I thought, wait a minute, why not helping each other, having multiple different type of activism who have big channels, and when someone is taken down, we're going to promote your backup channel. And then you have, you know, that you still fight to do cause.
You're right. I think that there is a need for more organised. But you see, the thing is, who is going to do that organisation?
Exactly.
I think, in a way, it's quite good that it's a distributed system. You know, that everyone is doing a little bit for themselves, but also thinking of others. I was telling you about, for example, the activists who were arrested and beaten up by the police.
Yeah.
Well, afterwards we go and find them because what's happening is the police are trying to, it's like they're trying to grab the slowest gazelle on the back of the herd and take them, and then they take. Actually, a lot of people believed it, yeah? So that's one of the main problems is you've got to have a kind of journalistic discernment and make that absolute separation between speculation and fact. It's really important for all the bloggers, everyone to do that. If they have the evidence, then you can couch it in the terms of a fact. And it's no problem speculating, we think maybe this, but maybe that, but you've got to use the right language.
I totally agree with you. I want to say you have a wonderful website, bilderberg.org. It's really nice to